Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Last First Date Radio, featuring interviews with experts in dating, relating, and mating in midlife. And now, here's your host, Sandy Weiner.
This is episode number 354, Get Your Head Out of the Dating Game and Get Into Your Body. I am Sandy Weiner. I'm host of Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late to have the love you want, and that a woman of value naturally attracts the respect and rewards she deserves in life and in love. Today, I am excited to be speaking with somatic psychotherapist, businesswoman, facilitator, movement meditation consultant Heather Nichols about the importance of getting out of our heads and tapping into the wisdom of our bodies to create better relationships. And boy, can I relate to this topic. I pretty much lived in my head most of my life, so I know that not only I live there, but most of my clients start out living there, and they're super successful at work and really struggle in relationships. And I think so much of our wisdom lies in integrating our bodies with our heads, and especially as women. So I'm excited to speak to you, Heather. And as I mentioned, I help women to value themselves more and become women of value. And what I mean by that is that they learn to speak up, they learn to show up more authentically, and they learn to take a stand for the things that matter to them. And every week I bring you a tip on how to become a woman of value. This week's tip is love yourself first. We tend to put ourselves at the bottom of our list. And I remember when Oprah said, "Are you on your to-do list?" And I was like, what do you mean by that? Right? But we do that. We put everybody else first. We make everybody a priority. And then we walk around drained and resentful, and we just become martyrs of our life instead of victors of our life. So when you take the time to really find what nurtures your soul, what nurtures you as a woman, as a person, and do those things first, and one quick tip on that, this was something I find it's a real super tip, starting with when you wake up in the morning. Don't go to email, don't go to helping other people, which is what we tend to do. Like email is being of service to others. Nurture yourself first. So whether it's just making that delicious cup of tea or coffee and sitting in silence and drinking it, or drinking outside, meditating. Some people do dance routine in the morning, like just put on music and dance, but like leave the news off. Don't go to email. Take care of you, and I guarantee you your day will be so much better. So before I bring on Heather, I just wanted to let you know that I have a Facebook group. It's a free group called Your Last First Date. It's a private group, so it is a protected group, and it's really to service women who are over 40 and are struggling to find their last first date. So join us. We are a large group. We are monitored daily by my beautiful monitors, and so we keep this group forward-moving, positive, and really supportive so that you learn to really have the skills to find your last first date. So it is called Your Last First Date. You apply on Facebook in the group section. And now for my guest, Heather Nichols. She is a master's in social work. She's a Joy of Business facilitator, a movement and meditation consultant, a tantra practitioner, and somatic psychotherapist. She combines her expertise in mind-body therapy with 20 years of experience in the world of business and entrepreneurship to facilitate people toward a fuller, more joyful experience of business, life, and family. She's an access consciousness facilitator, healer, and a mom. She has been running a weekly radio show for more than 6 years. She also facilitates workshops and private consultations online and around the world. She refuses to take no for an answer from life. I love that. And she brings to her work a fierce commitment to create joy, ease, and wealth on the planet in every aspect. Welcome to the show, Heather.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
You're welcome. It's so great to have you, another radio show host. And the name of your show is called Creating Beyond Reality, for anybody who wants to go check it out. It sounds really interesting. It's a mix of everything, and so I think that everybody can get something out of it, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about getting our head out of the dating game. Before we get there, I would love for you to share, like, what made you interested in doing body work, in doing somatic work, because I think it's such an interesting field.
Yeah. I've just kind of always been a body person. My mom had to lie about my age when I was 2 to get me into a dance class, and tell the teacher that I was 3. And that's been, that was the beginning, really. It's like as soon as I could walk, I was dancing, I was doing gymnastics, I was a diver in high school. Just always loved my body, loved to move my body, actually really enjoy and have always enjoyed my body, which I didn't realize was kind of rare until, I got a lot older. And I became a social worker, and I was doing, I had a private practice doing psychotherapy, and was exposed to body-centered psychotherapy and movement therapy, and was like, yeah, of course we would include the body in change. And I found as a therapist, when I brought the body in to my work, the change that people would experience was just so much faster and more dynamic and more lasting. And so it was like, our bodies are a huge part of our lives, and so many people ignore our bodies, and yet when we do, we're actually, like, it really, really diminishes what we can create and the relationships that we can have and everything.
True. Really true. Well, it is rare to really enjoy your body, unfortunately, and this is a business for so many people, to help women appreciate and honor their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what do you do? Like, so say somebody comes to you in your work as a social worker. How would you integrate the body into the work that you were doing?
Yeah, well, it's changed now. When I found the tools of access consciousness, that was even faster. Like, I love just really speedy change, and not just like on the surface, but actually like change that really lasts and is like, permanent. And so when I found access consciousness, it was even faster, more dynamic, more effective in a lot of ways than what I was doing before. And so I started doing that. And now there's so many different tools that I play with, but the body still is a huge part of the conversations that I have with people. And I do hands-on energy work. There's a lot of different hands-on modalities in access consciousness, and just different types of energy work that we do. And I think one of the things is our bodies tend to hold our stories. And so when we clear our stories and we change our stories and we don't live from our stories anymore, the stories of like limitation that we think are true, allowing the body to let go of that is a huge part of what allows the change to really filter into every area of our lives.
So that kind of brings us into the dating world. So is that part of why getting out of your head and getting into your body in the dating world is so helpful?
Yes, definitely. We were just chatting before we went live about my relationship, and I have a really amazing, really, really different relationship of almost 9 years with a man that I met at a tantra retreat. And the story of us meeting was so informed by my body. I had started to I'd gotten divorced. I had very, very small children. They were 1 and 3 when I got divorced, and I really looked at a lot of what you were talking about, this, where am I valuing me? Where am I including me in my life? And how I really hadn't been doing that when I was married, and took a lot of that apart and started exploring the world of tantra, and came across this website, and I signed up to get on their list and all of that. And shortly thereafter, I got an email from them about this retreat that they were doing in Antigua in the Caribbean. And my body, as soon as the email came in, I will never forget this moment. My body went, "We're going." And it was just this sense of the intuition, but also this knowing in my body. And I was like, okay, I didn't go into my head about it. I listened to my body, and I listened to my intuition, and to me, they're very connected. And I was like, okay, cool, we're going, and I didn't hem and haw about it. I didn't think about it. I just, sent them the application and proceeded toward, going to this retreat. And as it got closer, this was probably 6 months before it happened, as it got closer, I just started to have this sense of I might be meeting somebody here. But it wasn't I didn't make it significant. I didn't, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go meet my soulmate, or it was just, my life is really going to change at this thing. And I went and I showed up the first night and kind of looked around the room, and I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I won't be meeting. There wasn't anybody, there wasn't a pop or a sense of yes, And then all of a sudden, my partner, Brian, walked in late and sat down right in front of me, and I went, oh my gosh, that guy, who is that, And, the rest is sort of history. And we met and we got together, and we really didn't, we were like, this is long distance. He has kids. I have kids. We have, but we just knew, and we just have really followed our intuition and this sort of gut sense of what we would like to create with each other ever since then. And it's been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we have such an amazing relationship, and even with long distance and all of that, it's been incredible. But if I had been in my head about any of it, none of it would have ever happened. There would have been way too many objections that my mind would have come up with.
Yeah, that's what happens. And I see these women who come with this long list of he has to have this and he has to have that, and it's often just safety. It's all about safety. He has to make more money than I do. Well, why? Oh, well, because that's the way it is. I'm not going to live a life of poverty, and it's wait a minute. Slow down here. You make a good living. What if you met this amazing person who was such an incredible soul connection, and he made $10,000 less a year than you? Is that it? That's off the list, So when you're not judging like that and you're feeling into it. So is that what you're saying? It's your intuition, your body, it feels into your decision rather than your head going, let's see if he meets my checklist.
Yep, totally. And it's funny because I didn't have a checklist, but I was very clear on what I was asking for in a relationship. But it was really from that honoring of me and what I knew I valued and what I would like to, somebody that I'd like to create a life with. And so I was clear, and he actually totally exceeded that. But I didn't, measure him against the checklist. It was my body just went, oh my gosh, who is this person? And it was oh, wow. And it wasn't just a sexual attraction, although that was definitely there and still is. But it was just a sense of this being, this person in front of me, all the whole package is so nurturing to my life and my body and everything that the specifics don't really matter. And even this, okay, he has 3 teenagers. He lives in Seattle. He has 2 businesses. I have 2 little tiny kids. I live in Boulder. None of that I didn't listen to the rationale around any of it. Like, we were both so willing to just go, no, this is something really special. It doesn't matter what it looks like. And that's one of the things, one of the kind of a tool I could offer from that we play with a lot in Access Consciousness is it never shows up like you think it's going to. And if you know that going in, then it's a lot more fun, because if you have a checklist and, like you said, $10,000 less a year, and you're like, oh, no, sorry, but this could be somebody who could totally expand your life, and you're like, nope, sorry, you don't meet the checklist. Wow, that's a bummer,
Yes.
It really doesn't ever show up. And so for both of us to be like, oh, here we are, it's like having a marriage, although we're not married and we don't plan to be long distance. We actually love having a long distance relationship. We don't have any plans to live in the same place at any point, and we could, but it's not, we don't have the point of view that needs to change. We love to travel. We love to live in both places. We travel all over the world together. It's this, and it's also a relationship that a lot of people don't think is real, because we're not married and we don't live together and we don't, but we've created something that is phenomenal for us. And it's all been from staying out of our heads, staying out of the decisions and the computations of what it's supposed to be, and allowing the magic of life to show up and show us and invite us to something greater.
I love that. I so agree with you on so many fronts. I think that when you go in thinking anything has to look like anything, you often miss when it shows up. So that could be true for work as well. Like, you think, oh, I really want this, and then something even better shows up, but you're looking for something else, so you walk right by it. And so I really believe this to be true, and maybe, I don't know if you agree with me, but that I think men are generally better at trusting their intuition when it comes to dating than women. And I've seen men who just feel into it. They're like, doesn't feel right, I'm moving on. Women are like, doesn't feel right, but he's good looking, he has a good job, so I'm just going to give him 10 more chances, and it's okay if he treats me terribly because that does. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, we all have our things, that stick us and where we stick ourselves, and it may be just a little bit different for men, or but I do see that a lot with women too, where it's like, oh, but it's okay if he's unkind. It's okay if, and that's really, I would say I did that in my marriage pretty dynamically. It was like, well, and this is actually something I see a lot with people who do a lot of, have a lot of like personal growth conversations and that they play with, and, that are like in that conversation in their lives, is it can be this weird sort of downfall, because we go, well, we can change. And, I know like when I was married, we did a lot of therapy, and it was like, well, this is about growth. And, but there were things that really just didn't work for me. And it's not that my ex-husband is a bad person, but it wasn't a good fit. But we sort of use the crutch of personal growth to like be this way that we could force it to work when we just actually weren't compatible to begin with, and we had some amazing kids, so I'm really grateful. But it's, there's so many people in the world, it's not like there's a shortage of amazing people. And when we get clear on what actually works for us, and like you said, this huge piece, the value of us, just because, not for anything other than because, I am, I'm me, that is valuable. You are you, that is valuable. Then we can really invite somebody into our lives that will make that greater, make us greater, rather than be like sort of fitting the checklist, but it's okay if they don't, and, you know.
Yeah. It's so much about like excusing behaviors that are inexcusable and tolerating disconnect when things can be so much better. And that was really the catalyst for me to get out of my marriage, as I stayed for 23 years, which was a really long time. And I was really unhappy, but I honestly believed that was as good as it was going to get. And I had such a terrible view on love and relationships. And then I met somebody, a man who I became attracted to, and I didn't even know it was happening to me because I was so shut down for so long. My body had turned off. And so it was like, whoa, I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, I'm like tossing and turning every night, and I don't know why. And I finally realized, oh my God, it's been switched back on, and I don't want to ever go back to having it turned off again. Like it was too big. It was too big of a risk to live the rest of my life that way. And so that's, you know, there's so many people who just stay there and just go, well, you know, it's not going to get any better. So it really opens up possibilities when you let that go and realize there is so much better. There is a better fit. And it's like if you were to renovate a house and it had terrible foundation, and you just kept putting work into it, that's the same thing with a terrible relationship. It's like it has to have that good bones, just like a house has to, in order for you to put the work in. Otherwise, you're building on the straw house. Yeah, and if you ignore your, you know, whatever you want to call it, gut, intuition, awareness, it's a major, you know, compromise of the foundation. And I will say, you know, one of the things I love about Access Consciousness is it is so extraordinarily pragmatic, and everything, all the tools, all the conversations are very much about this pragmatic creation of your life and relationships and everything, business, money, all of it. And it's very different in that the most pragmatic way to actually create a relationship, but really anything, is to actually get out of it. Your mind is always going to lie to you. It's always going to, you know, tell you that it's the thing that goes, well, maybe it's okay. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe I could, you know, it doesn't get better than this. That's always your mind. And so what your mind can sort of come up with and what you can create with your mind is so tiny compared to if you really are willing to let go of control and go, okay, my body actually has a lot of brilliance. My body has a lot of wisdom. My being, like my awareness and my intuition that even goes beyond my body is really brilliant. And that's where the juice is. That's where we can find these relationships that actually make our lives greater in ways that we could never imagine. But as long as we're listening to, like, in our heads and listening to the junk that our mind is telling us, it's always going to diminish what you can create. And it can be a scary kind of conversation and playground for people because it is, you know, there's so much control that our mind does that we think we need. So it's can be a little, you know, nerve-wracking or whatever to go beyond that. And that's where I always like to bring in this piece that it's pragmatic, like it actually is going to work. You're going to get what you desire and way greater if you stop trying to force it with your head and your mind and start really being aware of what's actually true, what's actually true. Yeah, so the control piece, and this, as soon as you said it, I'm thinking how many people are going to hear this and go, but I need to be in control of my life, and you can't tell me not to be in control. So let's talk, and also the other side of this, and I'm thinking about all the women who have had trauma to their bodies, and so a lot of those women, their bodies are not a safe place, and it's much safer to live in your head. So what are some of those pragmatic tools that we can use to get into our bodies, even if we've had terrible upbringing, something traumatic has happened.
Yeah, and this is a huge part of my work. It still is. When I was a somatic psychotherapist, it was did a lot of work with trauma and really facilitating the body to unwind trauma, because it changes our nervous system, and the need to be in that, we get actually stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze pattern neurologically, and it's very difficult this conversation is sort of like, how could I even think about being out of control? Like, I have to protect myself. And, I just want to say too that trauma is also, like, abuse and trauma are far more insidious than we think. It's not just if you've been sexually abused or physically abused. It's very much a part of our world in every way. I mean, when we don't include our bodies, when we don't, acknowledge how brilliant we are and what we just know, that is an abuse in a way of the greatness of who we are. So that's, kind of a bigger conversation. I just put that out there to plant the seed for people. But so pragmatic tools, and one of my favorite really, really pragmatic tools is an energetic process in Access Consciousness called the bars. And it's different points on the head, and you literally just hold these points, and any traumatic patterns, neurological patterns, there's these kind of fight or flight, protective responses, the need to control. A lot of our just thoughts and feelings and emotions actually dissipate. And they literally, it's almost like deleting your hard drive on your computer or cleaning it out, defragging it, where anything that doesn't serve you, anything that's not you, anything that's stuck in your body or in your energetic system actually it literally gets deleted. And it's amazing. I mean, it's like one of these, I had done a lot of energy work for years and years, and I had my bars run, which is what we say, having your bars run. Had my bars run the first time, and I was like, I have never experienced anything like this. It just felt like she just poured bliss into my body. But there's this clearing that happens with the bars that is really dynamic, that, like I said, I've never seen before with anything else that I've done. And you literally lay on a table and have your, somebody just holds these points on your head, and you get off the table and you are different. Like, you have more space. You have less need for your mind, less reactivity. It's amazing, the gift that it is for everything, including things like PTSD. And one of the things that's so cool about it is it's very, very easy to learn. You can learn it in a day. There's people all over the world that teach bars classes. There's people all over the world that offer bars sessions. And when you go to a class, you get 2 sessions and you give 2 sessions. So you learn it by doing it and practicing. And you don't have to know anything about energy. You just hold somebody's head and you hold these points, and it works. So that's one of my very favorite tools. And it's amazing what it can create for people.
Sounds really interesting. And
yeah.
Will you, is there a link to it that people can look up?
Yes. Yeah. If you go to the Access Consciousness website, it's accessconsciousness.com. You can search for bars practitioners and bars facilitators, and they literally, I think we have people doing bars in 176 countries, so almost every country in the world, and growing every day. So it's pretty easy to find people. And there's a lot of Facebook activity, like a lot of people that do Access Consciousness are very active on Facebook. So that's a place too for people to look. There's groups and things. So
okay, that's good to know. Okay, I'll include a link to that in the show notes. So this conversation is deep, and we could certainly even just talk about the last part for another hour. I think just the whole thing about trauma, and it's just so important to reconnect to our bodies and to stop just overthinking everything. It is just so crucial. So if you had one last tip to share with our audience so they can go on their last first date, what would it be?
I would say, really do whatever you can do to get more connected to your body. So, whether you go find a bars session or just listening to the sensation of your body, paying attention to your body more. Maybe you move more, go for more walks or do yoga or, whatever is fun for you, however it is fun for you to move your body, but just acknowledging your body more, honoring it more, having more of a connection with it, and trusting that when you have a gut feeling about something, and that we all experience that in different ways, follow it, play with it, experiment with it. Maybe just you play with it for a day and see what that's like, and you can go back to your other ways of being tomorrow. Take an hour and just see what it's like to just follow your intuition, follow your awareness, follow your gut, listen to your body and see what shows up. Because part of it is because it is actually so pragmatic. It's like part of it is just giving ourselves the experience of what it can be like to have a different world that is beyond our head, and seeing, oh, this isn't so bad. This isn't so scary. This actually works. This does actually create a greater life for me. And, giving ourselves that experience again and again, it can be really life-changing.
I love that. Well, thank you. Tell our audience how they can get in touch with you, Heather.
Yeah, thank you. You can find me on my website, which is heathernichols.com. NICHOLS.com, and there's links on most of the pages there to sign up for my newsletter and stay in touch that way. On the home page, there's one right at the top, and then on Facebook, I'm very active on Facebook. My page is Heather Nichols CF, C like cat, F like Frank, for certified facilitator of access consciousness. So those are both easy places to find me. And I really I love connecting with people. I love getting messages from people saying hi, and I just love people, and I love these conversations. So I'm happy to connect with anybody who's interested in more and who has any questions.
Awesome. Well, we'll have all that in the show notes. And thank you so much, Heather, for sharing your wisdom today, for helping our audience see the wisdom and the value of reconnecting with their body and their intuition, and really practicing this on a daily basis until it becomes more integrated into who they were and who they are and how they date.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful. And just, please know, everybody, you deserve to have a relationship, if you would like one, that is really fun for you and really honoring of you. And it's possible. And when you include your body and you get out of your head, it is even more possible. And what would it be like if you had a relationship that made your life 100 times greater than you being on your own? And what if you don't have to settle for anything less? It really is possible. And your body knows a lot about how to create that. So that would be my wish for the world. Yeah.
And you're living proof that it happens. So listen to Heather.
It really does. You have to jump off a few cliffs every once in a while.
Yes.
But it's totally worth it.
It is totally worth it. So thank you, everyone, for listening today. And if you love our show, please follow us and give us a rating and review wherever you listen. We're on every platform. And I hope you go on your last first date very soon. And don't forget to join us in my Facebook group, Your Last First Date. Have a great day.